Hello, Harry here, and welcome or welcome back to Jog On. Today's episode is with a man who I met just a few days before recording this. We got talking, and I found out that he was about to embark on an adventure. He told me his story and the story of his cousin Mark.
I've known him, obviously, since he was a baby, and I remember him as a baby.
After hearing it, I knew I had to get him on here as a guest to talk more about it. After a brief discussion about Jon's lack of social media skills...
Because I've only been on Instagram for like a week.
Yeah, I can see. I checked that the sound was working. Okay, I just need to check I've got everything working correctly. And we were ready to talk.
Well, I listened to your podcast. It's really clear and it sounds really professional. So you've obviously fine-tuned it.
It was an absolute pleasure to hear Jon's story, and I hope that you listening or watching get something from it as well. So please, welcome to Jog On, Jon Green.
I've always done a bit of running on and off, but nothing seriously. And then about 4 years ago, I had to get my car fixed at the garage. And I thought, I need to get back from the garage. And my wife was working and the garage was about 3 miles away. So I thought I'd run back. And then I went for another run a couple of days later. And then I got chatting to a friend who does a lot of running. And I said, oh yeah, I went for a 4 mile run. And, you know, this was my time. So that was your time. He says, that's a really good time for someone who's not actually ran much. So after that, I thought, well, I'll pursue this. And then he convinced me to do a 10-mile race in 2 months' time. I really enjoyed it. I didn't have any problems. So I think I'm fairly fortunate that I'm one of these people who, you know, has an ability to run.
Yeah,
and I remember at school, I was never really particularly good at sports, but cross country, I was one of the people who'd done quite well at that. I didn't do well in 100 metres, I was, you know, middle range, but it was just cross country. And we used to have this horrible cross country. Part of it was on the beach on sand. So everyone sort of dreaded it at school, you know, because it was always first thing in the morning at 9 o'clock. And I was one of the people that, you know, enjoyed it. And I think everyone was surprised by that because I was never one for football. I think people were a bit shocked that I was quite good at cross country, really.
Yeah, it's particularly nice if you're not someone who's known for being sporty. It sounds quite similar to my experience. Terrible at football and ball games, but had some success at cross country. And people would sort of go, hang on, you're not the sporty type. But it's just that thing. For some reason, you got a little bit of a build for it or something's going on. There's an engine inside that allows you to run. So
yeah, exactly. No, I really enjoy it. So I've done the 10-mile race. He said, well, you have a go at a half marathon. So I done that. And then I done a marathon last year in Stockholm, which was good, really good.
Oh, brilliant. That must have been a great experience.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I tried to get on the London Marathon and I put my name down in the draw, but it's very hard to get onto.
Very.
But, yeah, I really enjoyed that.
And this is something you think you'll continue with now? Do you see yourself running for the next few years? This is something you're going to keep pursuing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to be honest, we've just recently relocated to Hampshire. And now I've moved to Hampshire and discovered the South Downs, you know, which is beautiful. And it's literally on my doorstep compared to where I was in Cambridgeshire, which is just flat. Coming here, it's really inspired me to do a lot more and probably run longer distances. It's a lot tougher than what I'm used to. And when I first got here, if you're not going up, you're going down. And I started running here and my pace, I was trying to go out and do the same pace as what I was doing in Cambridgeshire. And it was just killing me. I was just, what's going on? But I think it's got to be the hills around here. So I think I'm going to pursue some running events in the future after what I'm doing in a week's time, really. It's just time. I don't have enough time on my hands, like all of us, really.
That's often the way. And when you do up to these big distances, it is like taking on a part-time job training for a marathon or an ultra because the runs become, even changing, showering afterwards, the run itself, nutrition, everything, it can become like a third of your day taken up just by this one run.
It's very time-consuming. And after I'd done my marathon in Stockholm, I was pleased with my time. It was 3 3/4 hours and I'd done it.
Nice,
and I thought afterwards, well, where do I go from here? Because to improve this time, I've got to do a lot more training. I'd put a lot of time into that training. So it's a bit like, oh, what do I do now? Because I know next time I go out, you know, it's hard to find that time, isn't it? Like you say, you have to prep. When you're going out for that sort of distance, you have to take a lot with you. It is a massive part of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And multiple of those a week, and all of a sudden you realise how many hours you're putting into it. And those are hours that a lot of people struggle to find in the modern day life with other responsibilities going on. The great thing about running somewhere around the Hampshire area with those hills on the South Downs is when you do finally run back on the flat, it's amazing how well that translates to your speed on the flat. And that kind of training will be fantastic when you do go and do a marathon again. You know, you may have a real good shot of taking apart that 3 3/4.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'd like to go back to Cambridgeshire in one way just to do another run, like a half marathon around there and see how I get on, really. Because,
of course.
Yeah, like you say, it should be. Some of the hills around here are quite. it's not the Lake District by any stretch around here. It's just hill after hill after hill, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think around the Hampshire area, there's a big scene for people going long distances. It's partly the scenery as well. It's just, when you're enjoying being out there, you will just spend a little bit more time, and you add on another 40 minutes, and before you know it, people are going out and doing these 3-4 hour runs in the hills. It's mental. So I think probably the best thing is touching on Mark. Can you give a bit of background on how you know Mark? You're related to him. He's a family member, and a bit about Mark's history and his current situation.
Yeah, so Mark is my cousin. Mark is 5 years younger than me. I've known him obviously since he was a baby, and I remember him as a baby. He lives in Kent. He's a harbour master on the Thames and has done a lot of work for the Thames. Mm. But Mark, unfortunately, it was 2005, found a lump on his arm, and that was skin cancer. So he got that treated. That was a few weeks, I think it was 6 weeks before he got married. Anyway, he got treated, and then he thought that, all good, it's gone. Unfortunately, 12 years later, in 2016, it came back, and he found another lump on his arm. And I think he contacted his doctors and asked to have some scans, and I think eventually they did. He had the scans. He went on holiday to Florida, family holiday with his parents and his sister and their extended families. And then when he got back, there was some letters basically said, yeah, he needs to get to hospital urgently. So in 2016, he had some treatment to try and remove it. He had it removed. Unfortunately, then in 2018, it came back and it spread to his lungs and then to his liver. And then that was classed as stage 4, which is obviously very serious. And then from 2018 up until now, he's been on various treatments really to try and eradicate the cancer. And now, sadly, it's now progressed to his brain. And he's very limited in the treatment he can do in the UK now because it's progressed so far. He's currently on chemo really just to prolong, his life and his time with his family. And what he wants to do, him and his family, they want to travel. It would have been America, I think, but he's kind of got caught up in the current pandemic, and he would have probably gone to the States, but I think now he wants to go to Israel, and there's some treatment, it's called Novel treatment, and yeah, this is available in Israel, and what it does is it sort of harvests and improves his own immune cells to try and attack the cancer and kill the cancer. So it's a treatment that is available in the UK, but unfortunately, because it's progressed to his brain now, and because of the time frame he's under, it's not something he can do in the UK. He's on chemo at the moment, and bless him, he's a very active person. He loves his cycling. He's still going out there. And I know he went on a cycle ride yesterday. He was supposed to do it the day before, but he couldn't because he felt too unwell. So for someone who's very active, and now it's very sad. So that's what, we're trying to raise the funds for this treatment really.
And he's sort of late 30s, is he?
Yeah, he's 38. So he's got a wife and he's got 2 young children. And he's been really private about this, about his cancer and what he's gone through. It's not something that we've ever openly discussed, and he's shielded his children from it in the past. But now, because it's got so serious and his last chance is to go abroad to get the treatment, now he's come out in the open. And I think actually for him, now it's got out in the open, the support and the donations that people have made is amazing, really, because they need 150,000. So I think as well as getting the donations, the money, I think for him and his family, knowing that so many people care and have donated, no matter what the amount is just gives him massive encouragement really,
of course.
and keeps him going.
I had a look at the page. It was amazing seeing over £90,000. So, such a huge number. You go, whoa, this is a lot.
And I don't think they expected it to be that big. And it's so heartwarming because a lot of the people are strangers. The majority of people are strangers who've donated, and some people have been incredibly generous where they can. It's great that so many people have been generous really. And my fundraising has raised a bit, so I'm really pleased with what it's done so far. And, so again, a lot of strangers have donated, so that's great.
Yeah, awesome. And we'll absolutely touch on that in a moment. I think one of the things that stands out to me, and it's not really something, you know, I've been quite lucky to have, my own mum had breast cancer for a little while, but got the all clear and stuff. It's quite a strange process. But I think the thing that stood out for me with the story with Mark is just that length of time, like 2005. I mean, that's 15 years of your life. That, yes, whilst there's this long period of time, I mean, 12 years where you think it's over, you must get to a point of sort of feeling quite safe and like things are okay, and there must be a very demoralizing moment when you find something again and it all kind of comes flooding back. I mean, I can't even imagine what that's like. And
I know, and then you know, and he's lived with it since 2016 up to now, and it's all been serious. And to be able to continue your life knowing that this is happening, and it's very hard, really.
Yeah, of course, and especially for someone who's so active as well. And it was interesting. I read one of the articles that you forwarded me the link to, and I was reading. Mark had made a comment about how he was usually, because of his job as harbour master, if that's the correct title, about being in charge and having to constantly make decisions. And he talked about how it had all sort of been flipped to all these people all of a sudden helping him out, and it felt like this big flip of the switch, if you like, which I found quite an interesting point.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he has struggled to come out and tell people about this, come out in the open, and you know that he had like you say, a position of a lot of authority as a harbour master. Now he's at home and on his treatment, but I think he just really appreciates all the support people are giving him, really.
So I guess that moves us on to what you're doing, and a big part of the reason we're talking as well, in terms of your challenge. So talk me through the stages when you sort of found out about the fact they needed to raise this money through to your decision to do the challenge you're doing. How did that begin?
Yeah, so basically, my mum phoned me up a few weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and explained what was going on with Mark. And I was just sat right here where I am now, really. And I'd mentioned to my wife about running the South Downs Trail. I said, I wouldn't mind doing that, but obviously 10, 15 mile sections over a year or something like that.
Yeah.
And then my wife said, well, here's your opportunity to run the South Downs Trail. That evening, we made the decision I would do it, completely committed myself, of really given it too much thought about the scale of it, really. I kind of rushed into it like, right, I want to help my cousin Mark, but not really thinking through the gravity of actually doing anything like this, because although I've run a marathon, running 100 miles is a bit different, really.
Yeah. And just for people who don't know the South Downs Way, who are listening or watching, who are a bit further afield, where does it run from and to?
I think the South Downs Trail, it runs from Eastbourne. It starts off with a loop at Eastbourne, and it's 17 miles around this loop, and then it goes all the way to Winchester, and it follows all the hills in the South Downs, up various hills, and a lot of people hike it. It's very popular with cyclists. So I'll do it over 4 days. To be honest, I haven't really done enough prep for this, but I don't really have time on my side. So to do this 100 miles over 4 days, I'm not too sure. I've been very fortunate because I mentioned it to my brother-in-law, and then he recommended a trainer that he's used in the past to come up with a nutrition plan.
Yep.
I spoke to him on the phone for about half an hour and explained what I was doing, and then I explained what it was for, and he very kindly has waived all his fees, so he's coming up with this nutritional plan for me, and also stretches. So that is going to help me massively to do this, really.
Absolutely. It's funny because one of the most recent episodes that just came out on this podcast was with a nutritionist, and he was talking exactly about this, and particularly with that ultra sort of multi-stage day event like you're about to do, he just talked about just how important it is.
Ultra's a little bit different because you're going for a long period of time where you're not consuming any protein, which is in a normal day we wouldn't do. We're interchanging between carbohydrates and protein and making sure that the muscle's recovering.
Basically, my big takeaway from it was just keep eating and eat a lot and really fuel yourself. And because the last thing you want to do is be on, halfway through the third day, knowing that you've got another whole nearly a marathon the next day, and all of a sudden just find yourself bonking or hitting the wall and trying to desperately shovel pasta into your mouth sort of 2 hours too late or whatever. So that sounds like you're prepping nicely for it. But you're right, you're up against it with timing. So it's it's interesting.
It is really. I feel better for doing it already, so it obviously helps a lot.
Right. Yeah, it'll be a steep learning curve, but I think personally you'll just find out a lot from this whole challenge. I think you'll really get a lot from it. For what it's worth, my own experience with doing a bit of multi-day was that it does get quite lonely at points. You sort of find yourself, you know, if you're just running, you're like, oh, I'm just going to head off now for another 8 miles by myself, and may not see anyone, maybe the odd dog walker or a random hiker. You kind of have to get lost in your own head a bit, I think.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it.
And that rest overnight is going to be so important, that you get the rest and just kind of chill out and try to reset as much as you can and eat some food. And
it's just trying to relax, isn't it, really? And the days leading up to it as well is just relaxing and not doing too much, really, and just going for gentle walks and such like.
I'm guessing at some point, obviously, Jon, you told Mark about your plan, that you're all going to be doing this run for him. What was his reaction when you said, I'm going to run 100 miles for this?
Well, to be honest, I contacted his sister first, because I was very wary of Mark being private, and it took him a few days to really kind of express his emotions about this. And I think I'd be the same. You know what we like as males, you know, we keep things inside. So I told his sister, and she was really pleased and said that'd be great. And then, you know, he contacted me and said thanks. He's just really appreciative, really, that I'm doing something, and, you know, just want to do what I can, really.
Yeah, of course.
To help him.
So, Jon, if you want to help support this amazing challenge and donate, what's the best way that they can do it? Any
kind of small donation would be great. I mean, also, I was going to say, if anyone wanted to join me on any section of the run, you know, that would be great. Like I say, I'm going to start in Eastbourne, and I'll start posting more details about that. If you go to the GoFundMe website, and then in the search, if you type in urgent medical fundraising, and you'll see a picture of my cousin Mark and his family, and the Alps will be in the background. And then if you click on that, I'm also on Instagram, and my Instagram name is GRN1JON. So if you go onto that, there'll also be a link there for my GoFundMe website as well.
Perfect. And of course, I'll add these links in the show notes of this show. So if you're
that'd be brilliant.
Whether people listening on Apple Podcasts, whatever it is, in the show notes, I'll put some of the links so people can help support through that as well. Well, Jon, I hope it goes very, very well for you. I wish you all the best with it. An excellent 4 days. There might be a chance I might even myself be able to join you for a bit of it, but I'll have to talk to you about that separately and work out whether that's possible. I just wish you all the best, and of course, all our best wishes go to Mark and his family, and I hope that things go well for them in the future.
No, thanks for having me. I really appreciate that, and it'd be great if you could join me for a bit of encouragement. That'd be fantastic. Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Harry.
Cheers, Jon. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Jog On. As mentioned, if you do want to show your support and help Jon with this effort, all the relevant details and links are in the show notes. And of course, if you're enjoying Jog On, hit subscribe, recommend us to a friend. You can follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Jog On Podcast. Get in contact by email. It's thisisjogon@gmail.com. I'm Harry Morgan. Stay safe out there, make the most of each day, and jog on.